Good morning, Matty. Welcome back to Racing Clear. I know we've had a few weeks away. We've had a little break. Not so much a break from racing now, but just I suppose other commitments have taken priority over the last couple of weeks. But it's good to be back. And how have you been?
Morning, James. Yeah, we're just the 3 week hiatus that we've been away for. See, it seems a lot longer, but we're just saying 3 weeks in the racing world is a long time, isn't it? But yeah, no, I've been well. How have you been?
Good. Yeah, good. Like you say, yeah, there's been a lot happening. I suppose it's kind of the time of year for it as well, with the jumps still finishing up the last couple of weeks, Grand National meetings heading into Punchestown, and obviously the flat kicking off as well. So I have kind of switched my brain fully now at this stage to flat. How about yourself?
Yeah, well, I think I'd be glad to see the back of the jumps now. I mean, since we've last been on there, the last 2 or 3 weeks, all I seem to have done is hit the crossbar. And so, but funnily enough, I'm going to give it one last stab in the dark with a Swinton on the weekend. So we'll save that for later on. But yeah, I'm glad to get. I'm glad to get back into the swing of the flat as well.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I was following your exploits, shall we say, online in recent weeks, and it was it was quite incredible to be honest. But a pile of them placing at big prices, so I'd imagine the P&L was decent during the period.
Yeah, I think from Scottish Grand National Day, the Saturday until the Sunday afterwards, I think I didn't have a single winner, but I think I was 10.3 points up, and which is just it's just bizarre. Like it's one of those. It's been one of those 2 or 3 weeks where on another day, like I wouldn't be sat here. I'd be sat somewhere in the Bahamas and having a nice cocktail or something like that. It's just been incredible. Like I've had so many big places, and but that's racing. I'm on the right path. We'll keep kicking on.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I always think, those runs, like, they're frustrating, but you're doing something right if you're hitting the crossbar that much. And I don't think you just hit it. I think you absolutely smashed it and broke it down. And speaking of crossbar, and there's been a lot happening in the racing world, but United are back in the European final.
Yes, I think that's the reason I was able to get up so early this morning, full of joy and the birds singing because they're actually into a European final for once. So fantastic! We absolutely up until the 70th minute, I was a bit nervous then when we brought the fresh legs on and Mason Mount rolled back the years to 2015 when everyone was in his prime
Yeah.
and sent us through. It was a brilliant game to watch.
Yeah, I actually missed the game now. I was out, I'm involved with the team, and we were playing yesterday evening, but a GA team that is now, not a soccer team as we'd call it, but yeah, I was like on the way home. I was like, will I check the result? Will I wait till I get home? 'Cause I was just fearful that they
Yeah,
could have gone south. But no, it's going to be an interesting final with United and Spurs.
I know it's about time we had something now to cheer for, and just glad we got Spurs as well. So they are the most notorious bottlers and trophyless team in history, aren't they?
Don't say it, Matty.
Yeah,
Don't say it.
touch wood, touch wood.
I think it's time to move on to the racing. Um, so like I say, it's been a few weeks. Eye catchers. We're going to start with Matty. I have a couple, one handicapper and one group or potential group filly. What has taken your eye in recent weeks?
Um, just going to stick with the recency bias. We've got two. I'm not sure if you caught much of Chester this week, but I thought Mondo Man in the Ormond Stakes was a massive eye catcher for Gavin Joshmore. I think Mondo Man was the horse that finished second to Lalamba at Ascot a few months ago now. And he absolutely blew his brains out and did really well to get close to Lalamba on the flat. And then I wasn't sure what to expect back at Chester. I think I tipped him up thinking if he is keen and he can kind of go forward and use that natural class that he's got, then he might have a good chance. Then they held him up, and I thought, why on earth are they holding up a horse that's naturally this keen around Chester? And I could only imagine it was just to just drop his mark because they tried absolutely nothing with him behind Illinois, and they actually settled really well. And when a horse has got that much class and he's come back to the flat and he's settled and he's given a kind of ride like that, I think there must be a target somewhere. And I think he's on a mark of 110. If they could get that down to maybe 106, 105, I think he'd be an absolute stalwart bet in the Ebor handicap at York later on this season. So my first one will be Mondo Man. And then the second one is Indian Run. He was being a good 2-year-old. He won the Group 3 Aiken Stakes at the juvenile for Julia Camacho. Um, and he's just slowly coming back to the boil now. They tried him over a mile. They tried him in the Guineas last season behind City of Troy. I just think it broke him a little bit. It just knocked his confidence. And he's just slowly coming back to form now. It was impressive. He broke slowly without cover. He was trapped in a win last time out at Newmarket. And that was dropped back to sixth. I actually thought it was quite quick. Like he had the quickest top speed in the race, 41.8 miles an hour. He caught the second quickest final furlong before just weakening later on. And he's been dropped to power for that race. He posted the highest RPR since his Acomb Stakes win. I actually think he could have enough speed to drop back to 5. But the target for this one, I'd imagine, would be the Wokingham. I think quite a few in that race will go to the Wokingham. He'll have a swing with plenty of them, and he's got the natural class and speed to set it up to him. So it'd be 2 handicaps for me: Mondo Man for the Ebor and Indian Run for the Wokingham.
Interesting. When we get to the anti-post segment, there's a horse that I might be flagging for the walk-in, but it's not priced up yet. But yeah, Mando Man, I definitely think there's something that there's a big pot in him. I was thinking kind of earlier in the season after, I think it was after the Ascot run actually, I put him in my tracker for like a handicap next season over jumps. Real big field handicap where there's a strong pace. But there's definitely something in him. I agree there. It's just a matter of figuring out what it is, I think. My two eye catchers, I'm going back a little bit with these. Acadian Thunder ran at Leicester on his return. Now, this is a horse. I wouldn't say he's a cliff horse of mine, but he's just a horse that I've been following and following. I think I've backed him maybe once. Didn't back him on his return um, because I was kind of still gauging the flat season. But he dropped down to 6 furlongs, having raced over further primarily last season, and he just travelled so well through the race. I kind of like that angle of horses that stay further, coming back to 6 and travelling well, because obviously their stamina isn't in doubt, I suppose. But he just never got a clear run. It was impossible to tell what he would have found. But I'm convinced this is a well handicapped horse, and he's actually won second time up in each of the last 2 years. So I'm thinking next time up might be the time to catch him. He'll obviously need a more friendly track for hold up horses than Leicester, but I'm hoping he'll get that. My potentially group horse then, I was very taken by the performance of Golia. Look, anyone with a pair of eyes would have seen she was probably unlucky in the race behind Victory Queen at Ascot um, on the Ascot Trials Day there a couple of weeks ago. She was held up kind of trying to get her to settle, but she was still quite keen, and she just got caught in a terrible position, really. To nobody's fault as such. Like, that's where she found herself, I suppose, and there wasn't much pace in the race. And she just had nowhere to go as the race was developing. Didn't get a clear run. Kind of went for an ambitious run down the rail. Didn't get that. Then had to check. And that was around the furlong pole, so really had very little time to gather herself up and get going again. But she did, and like the form of Victory Queen's previous run at Newmarket has worked out well. So I'd say this might be decent enough form in the long run, and I'd be surprised if Golia doesn't prove the best of those in time. So they are my two: Acadian Thunder and Golia, who I think could be a group filly in the making. We'll move on
Seen how
to.
Arcadian Thunder's entered in the that Churchill Tyres handicap next week at York.
Is he?
Yeah,
Okay, I
I've
didn't
seen it.
look at the
Yeah,
arc entries yet. I've been kind of, I haven't veered. I'm literally week to week at the moment. Maybe things are busy, but okay, that would be very interesting. Now that would be very interesting to me. So yeah, hopefully he will go there. York, I think, can really suit him as well. The
yeah.
6 furlongs.
Big galloping 6, definitely.
Yeah, perfect. Interesting. The anti-post markets. I had a look. Didn't really see anything. The horse I was interested in, the Wokingham, isn't priced anywhere yet. Is there anything that's catching your eye in the anti-post markets?
I mean, I am off to York next week. So I have had a quick look at the York Anti Post Market. I always struggled to kind of with some of the classics and the big race at Ascot, I always kind of struggled to kind of form an opinion when we've only seen 10% of what's probably going to run. So I'm sticking with just with the ones that kind of coming up quite soon, and it's Comanche Falls in that Churchill Tyres handicap. Comanche Falls. He's only an 8-year-old Comanche Falls. I thought. I mean, he seems like he's got veteran status, like Dakota Gold status. Obviously, very progressive through the handicapping ranks a couple of seasons ago, peaking at a mark of 113, second to Anaf, and in the I think the Bangor Stakes at York at Ascot. In the last season, I think his mark was just a little bit too high. Started off on 112 in the Group 3 at I think in the Aberdeen Stakes maybe at Newmarket. Then came to the Group 2 at York, only beaten the sixth length. And then went to the Curragh, only beaten a length as well. And just slowly kind of working his way back to form last season. Dropped out of a handicap at York for the first time in about a year and a half. Beaten a length by the progressive Elmon Jed in first time blinkers. It was beaten 4 lengths in the Air Gold Cup off top weight. 3 lengths at Ascot off top weight. And it was beaten 4 lengths in the I think it was Arcadian Thunder's race at Leicester by 4 lengths too. So he is slowly coming down the handicap. I just think there must be another good pot in him. He's 12-1 for that Churchill Tyres race next week at York. He's got lovely course form at York. He's a multiple winner there. He won't mind which way the ground turns up. And off a mark of what I think is a 102 now, his lowest mark since he won a handicap at Goodwood in July 2022. I'd be amazed if he's not picking up a good contest soon. So that'd be Comanche Falls around 12-1 for the Churchill Tyres handicap at York.
Okay, interesting. I hope you continue your run of seconds, Matty, and I hope you're second to Acadian Thunder. But yeah, not I see the angle there as well, definitely. I suppose I like I said, the race isn't priced up, so it's very like I'd imagine he's going to be fairly fancied because I've seen a couple of people mention him already. But More Thunder would be interesting to me in the Wokingham if he was a decent price. Obviously, I suppose he is going to be close enough to the top of the market, I would imagine. I just think this is a potentially group sprinter. I liked his 2 wins this season, particularly last time at Newmarket. Don't think Newmarket really plays his strength. Like I think he wants a really, really stiff 6. So Ascot should be absolutely perfect for him. He's very strong at the finish of his races. Did really well realistically to get up at Newmarket, and I think there's plenty more in his locker. So I'll be keeping an eye on that market for him. I suppose with all my talk about United, we kind of missed a couple things. I suppose mentioning Newmarket and the furore about Gosden and Schumacher and the fallout from that. Did you have any thoughts on that, Matty?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's not the first jockey to be dropped off him up with the last. I thought it was just a little bit sour how the Gosens kind of came about it. They essentially said it was a poor ride without saying it was a poor ride. But look, it's a fickle game. It's just I don't. I am in two minds about it because I mean, someone said it on the Racing Post. I thought they'll bang on that he was almost like when Moyes took over Ferguson. That it was just completely set up to fail. Like you look at the horses Dettori and Gosden had together, and Dettori had Nabel, he had Cracksman, Palace Pier, Stradivarius, Golden Horn. Good horses, but horses that will get you out of trouble. I can remember the amount of times where Frankie given a bad one to Stradivarius, and just his natural class had just got him out of trouble. The Gosens haven't had a horse like that recently, especially with Kieran Schumacher. I just wonder whether it's an accumulation of one too many errors on the horse that particularly aren't good enough anymore. It was criticised for his ride on in Spiral in the Pre-Jack Le Marat a couple of seasons last season. Emily Upjohn in the Nassau Stakes, and then of course Field of Gold in the Guineas. Was it a bad ride? I don't think it was a horrible ride. I think it was a bad ride for people who was on their favourite. I mean, the only thing I would say, I was surprised when he reined him back after a good break and getting jump over ruling court. I thought once he got ahead of that his main market rival, I thought he should have stayed there. The pace was honest enough for him. He could kick quite early, and I thought he got that wrong. And I just wonder whether it was one too many beating of the sticks. There's only so many classics you can start to lose before you're out the side door. But yeah, in two minds. But I think he was set up to fail from the start, realistically.
Yeah, I'd agree with a lot of what you've said there. I think it's probably pressure building as well at the stable. They didn't have a great season last season by their own standards. This was probably the horse that they were kind of hanging their hat on, and the fact that they hadn't won the Guineas. There's a lot of underlying factors here. I think the ride itself, yeah, look, the horse should have won. He was the best horse in the race, but we're talking really fine margins here. Like, we have the benefit of sectionals and breakdown that the pace wasn't that strong, but that's afterwards. Like, he's making these decisions in a split second, in the heat of the moment. Now, I'd no skin in the game, so I suppose it's easy for me to say, and look at it that way, and probably not be as peeved. Like, if I'd him backed, would I be saying, "Beckett, that was a very poor ride," But I agree. I think that move when Buick just kind of moved beyond him and Schumacher ran back, that was probably the winning and losing of the race. Even as early as it was in the race, um, they kind of didn't really go hard. I think Simon Rowlands does a very good piece in it, and at the races, um, ruling court was quicker than any Guineas winner in recent years, uh, over the final few furlongs, and obviously Field Gold was quicker again. So they didn't go that quick. Finishing speed percentage, Field Gold actually did 104.7%, where par is about 98%, and the average in recent Guineas has been about 98.5. So a lot of different factors. Obviously, look, I know we say jockeys have a clock in their head, and the good ones do, but we're talking very, very fine margins. I don't think it was an awful ride, but I do think he was the best horse in the race and didn't win. So I think multiple factors have led to the split, really. Don't think it was dealt with great. I agree with that as well by the Gosdens. Um, and especially then at this stage of the season as well, I feel like maybe if they were going to do it at the end of last season, if they wanted to make the call, but it just seems it just has left a little bit of a sour taste.
Yeah, and I suppose they only, they've essentially said, no, he's still going to ride for us, but we're going to use the best available. And I even thought that was a bit of a, beat a man while he's down sort of thing. But as you say, it's racing, it's a fickle game.
Yeah, like kind of playing it down after making a big deal of it, I think. Yeah. Right, we'll move on. Just the 7 furlong Victoria Cup, big field handicap at Ascot to get stuck into this week. Smaller field than usual, actually. When that was the first thing I kind of noticed when I went through it. I was expecting 25 or 26, but just the 19, I think. Yeah, 19 declared. Um, which it is like if you just look back over recent years, 21 last year and 22, which was down a little bit, but then prior to that, 27, 27, 26, and 27 ran in the race. So maybe a sign of the times, or an early season sign of the times in terms of field sizes.
Yeah, I was surprised we only had the 19, which might slightly start to affect the draw trend. Of course, low draws have absolutely farmed this race in recent years. The only single figure winning draw was Rebel Territory from stall one. I always remember that year because literally everyone had written him off, and or written anything drawn low off, and he just absolutely bolted up, didn't he? Up the far side, it just seemed incredible. So I think with Kirat, I mean, I know he's favourite in the handicap at around 5-1, and he's drawing in small 9, but he's essentially drawing in the middle. And he might just be able to get away with a single figure draw. It tends to be dropped in, kind of. It's essentially a middle draw where you can kind of go left or right, judging where the pace is going to be. But he won the first time out good last season, but couldn't justify that favouritism in the Britannia. I just wonder whether he's not quite well particularly treated and vulnerable to an improver. As I said, yeah, keep an eye on the draw. General trends for Israel are quite. I struggle to whittle down. I mean, 2 of the last 10 winners came from Newmarket last time out. 2 of the last 10 came from Newbury last time out. 2 of the last 10 came from the all-weather. And one of the things I noticed most was Spring Cup winners. So Ebbett's Guard, that's quite impressive. Spring Cup winners, just one from the last 18, returning quite a profit of minus 16 points. So as a trends based race, I found it quite a tough one to whittle down. Round of France for the Gosdens, beautiful bred son of Cedar Stars, from the family of Lily Langtry. That Windsor Norwich success have produced 3 solid subsequent winners, all rated I think 88, 90, 95. Since we might be okay off 106, but I think you have to be graded quality to take it. Glen Eagle Bay for the Irish, not a particularly good race in this record in this race. Sorry, James. It was favourite for the Irish Lincoln, beating 6 lengths. The form is working out. Of course, the winner was close in our Lincoln, and I think the third has won a good race since. Tricky to assess off 92. Thought Mile was interested for Steph Hollinshead. It was one of the only ones kind of come from a prominent rider at Doncaster and fare quite well, beating 3 lengths. When I banged this drum so many times already this season, that Lincoln meeting at Doncaster was incredible for hold up horses. Like you had to be held up. There was a huge headwind. We've seen so many horses come out and win since that were prominent and just fade into the headwind. And then Mile then goes and wins a shade close at Haydock with an English Ochre, where he pulls 8 length in behind. Career best RPR there, and the £4 rise doesn't look that insurmountable. So my early one will be Mile. I've also took a good chance on a Metal Merchant. Metal Merchant, I can't, similar to Comanche Falls, I can't believe Metal Merchant is only 5 years of age. Like, it seems to become an absolute stalwart in these Premier handicaps. He won the Spring Cup off 91 last season, first time up. He was in second to Sonny Liston in a similar contest over course and distance at Newbury. Then at Ascot in the Royal Hunt Cup, he was beaten 3 lengths, but he finished second of his group on the far side, where he hit the front and he just weakened later on to the fast finishing horse at the centre. Again, only just behind Sonny Liston, so the form backs up there. And he was second in his group of 12. The horse that finished first in that group, Days of Our Lives, he goes and beats. I think he might have beaten Sonny Liston next time out. Sorry, no, it was Liberty Lane next time out at Doncaster. So that franked the form since. Third at Sandown, fourth at Ascot again in that Moen Shandon International Stakes by a length, and 5 lengths behind Kirat when probably just over the top of Goodwood. So I just think this Metal Merchant is a pound. Well, he's back to that mark where he was second at Sonny Liston, a pound lower than his Royal Hunt Cup mark. He absolutely loves Ascot. And at Newbury, back to the Spring Cup, like, he was beaten 6 lengths, didn't look fit whatsoever. I actually picked up a column yesterday and I had someone messaging me saying they were at Newbury and they just didn't look fit whatsoever. Will come on for the run, and you just wonder whether this might have been the early season target. Dropping back to 7 again, strongly runs 7. He's at his best on the straight course, and Jack Channon's in great form. So the 2 against field for me at the moment would be Mile and Metal Merchant.
Okay. Interesting thoughts there. Yeah, I see the case from Mile. He actually went into my tracker after that Doncaster run, like you say, because of the headwind there. And he won last time at Haydock. I agree regarding trends. I found it very difficult to find angles here really into this. That could, like you normally would for a big field handicap, you try and whittle it down some bit. 10 out of the last 10 raised 4 or 5, all right, and 17 out of the last 19, but that only takes a few out of the field. I think it only takes 5 out of it. The draw, like you've mentioned, don't think it'll be as important with 19. It may well be. The draw can always make you look foolish, especially at Ascot. But I think anywhere around the middle would be fine. Just probably wouldn't want one drawn one or two, unless they do a rebel territory like you said. And the other thing was a recent run, 8 out of the last 10 had a fairly recent run. Only 2 kind of making their seasonal reappearance in the last 10. So I was kind of looking for something that had a run. Obviously, just a competitive handicap like it is, unless horse goes really well fresh. I think a prep run is important. You mentioned Gleneagle Bay. I actually quite like him. Um, Basically, long story short, I was actually very close to getting involved in this horse when he was syndicated by Stephen Thorne. His kind of early form caught my eye, and they actually mentioned that they were targeting the Leopardstown handicap, the 7 furlong handicap at Leopardstown when they were syndicating him. He had had his 3 runs to get a mark, and he was rated 88. And I was like, this horse could be better than 88. Not only did I not get involved in him, but I didn't back him in that Leopardstown handicap, and he looked a winner everywhere, bar the line. He just got caught well inside the final furlong and was headed literally on the line at a big price. I think it was 14, 16 to 1. And since then, I've kind of kept an even closer eye on him because I think he's a big pot like this in him. He's ran over a mile the last twice, and I think just a stiff 7 suits him better. Was fairly happy with his return in the race at the Curragh, beaten 6.5 lengths. But like you say, the form has worked out okay. That was soft ground as well. I think he could be better on nicer ground. So I think he has a
Yeah.
solid chance. Second in 2 of his last 3 runs. He's been knocking on the door. 92 is feasible for him. You mentioned Mael, who is also kind of in my tracker, but just wondered that £4. I don't know, did he have much more than that in hand? It was kind of a bunch finish at Haydock. Maybe he had the race won and he probably didn't go for him fully, but again could see him running well. And the third for me is Diligent Resdev. Just his return to action at Musselburgh, I was really taken by that. He was doing all his best work late on after getting kind of outpaced and a little bit maybe further back than ideal. Had to switch as well. Nearest at the finish, and that race has worked out kind of quite well already. Early days now, as it was only a couple of weeks ago, but the fifth has won since, won impressively at Newcastle, off a pound higher actually. Um, so that race in Musper a couple of weeks ago, I was very taken by Diligent Resdev. I thought he was the one to take out of that, and you're always kind of boosted then when there's the farm seems to be holding up. So
Is
I
that the
think
one that Lee Westwood has a leg in? I think it is.
it is. It's Mick Easterby is training it.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I
I'm
think
sure it's Lee Westwood's as well. I think it
I
is.
think he is. I think it is the same horse. Yeah. So he was I just thought he was overpriced. Not saying he's going to win, like, but he was. He was 16 to 1, and I just kind of thought that's a little bit big now for a horse with kind of the right profile, good prep, very eye catching, and stiff 7. I think will really suit him as well. So they were my kind of couple against the field. Gleneagle Bay and Diligent Resdev, maybe for a small each way. So we'll move on to our best bets, and I'll let you. I found it very difficult, Matty. I'll be honest. So I'll let you go first, and
Yeah, well, I'm in the same boat as you. I mean, it's not a particularly inspiring Saturday card, is it? So I've just the only 2 races that I could kind of nail my colours to the master were the Swinton and the Victoria Cup. I've already touched on the Victoria Cup with a Metal Merchant, who were at 14 to 1 with around 5 places on offer. I think is a good each way bet. And I've taken 2 against the field in the Swinton. The first one being Dancing Glance for Anthony Honeyball and Harry Cobden, who when teaming up together in the last 12 months, they were 4 from 13. So it's good that Cobden gets a leg up here. Good handicap debut last time out. Just he was an unlucky loser. Should we put it that way? Held up around the sharp track like Bangor, where the winner had first run. Was kicking for about 10 seconds before a Dancing Glance even got through. Much quicker than anything in the last 2 furlongs. Backed up by that finishing speed percentage of 103.11%. I just say an unlucky loser there. He was second to the time before that. He won the time before that, and the time before that he was second to Farsal, who of a Harry what's his name, Paul Nichols. So he beat Farsal who backed the form up in that ABF Novices Championship final race. Sandown, who was second there. So I think his mark's fine. I think he's on a mark of 116. He was a smart bumper horse. He was 10th in that Regent Strolls bumper, the big competitive bumper at Newbury last season. Won well at Southall, and then he just win just slightly tailed off at the end of the season. But he's bred to love this quick ground by passing glance out of Cave Tara Mare. So I think off a mark of 16, second bottom weight, I think he is. With Cobden up, I think Dancing Glance is a good chance. And the other one is Luna Sovereign, now in the hands of it's not Dan Skelton, anyways. Now in the hands of, I'll just get my notes up. Sorry. Sophie Leach. Sorry, I want to do a disservice by not mentioning it. Now in the hands of Sophie Leach, she was with Dan Skelton. Was actually sixth length fourth in this contest 2 years ago, from an £8 higher mark, on losing the left horseshoe. And it's a little bit of a concern. He's not won since 2021. But he's £16 lower than he was when he was third in the Group 3 Dovecote as a novice, and I just steadily returned to form this season, beating 3 lengths at Cheltenham behind King William Rufus after a bit of a moderate comeback in a competitive 0 to 135. Stayed on well, just losing his position at the last when the eventual second kind of just took over him, and then he had to check for Strada too. So Brian Hughes takes a ride. He's 2 from 6 all time for the yard. I just don't think it'd be a surprise if this is when he peaks now. He's obviously a bit of a smaller yard. He probably got a bit forgotten at the Skeltons. Still somewhat unexposed as a 9-year-old. But yeah, I think after that running at Cheltenham, I think he's got a good chance back here in a race that he's probably been targeted at. So it'll be 2 against field for the in the Swinton with Dancing Glance and Luna Sovereign, and Metal Merchant in the Victoria Cup. 3 good each way chances.
You're going for bigger prices than I am now. I've reverted to type when struggling to find something, and I've gone closer to the top of the market. I'm actually kind of sweet in my nap. It took a long time to find now, but the 335 at Linkfield on Saturday. It's the Fillies race, the 7 furlong race, the Chartwell Filly Stakes, Group 3. I quite like Cathedral in this. The 3-year-old taking on the older horses. 7 furlongs should be absolutely ideal for her. Won her maiden at Linkfield last season over 6 on the all-weather, and then ran in that Newmarket race, the Oh So Sharp, which Merrily won. Kind of caught the eye in that a little bit. Was headed in the final 100 yards, but had been keen enough early on. Just kind of made a big move then to lead over a furlong out. Flight was back in third in that race, obviously second in the Guineas. Troya, who was in fourth, won a novice on her next start, and Ecstatic for Aidan O'Brien was in fifth and was second in a Group 3 at the Curragh. So I like the look of the form, getting weight off her elders. Sorry, the 7th actually won a listed race as well since. So really, really solid look to that form. Getting weight off the older horses who don't kind of set an insurmountable task for her. Interesting bit of placing. Well, she could have turned up maybe at one of the Guineas trials, but they've come here instead. And I quite like Cathedral in the 335 at Linkfield on Saturday. And my next best, I've actually, after saying that I was switching to flat, I forgot that my next best came into Swinton as well. It's just been kind of one of those weeks where I've been forgetting myself a lot. But probably no surprise to people who've been following my stuff this season. Our Champ is a horse that I just believe he has got one of these in him. This is his last chance, obviously, at this stage of the season. If it's not now, it's going to be much later in 2025. Good ground ideal. I just don't think this is as strong a race as he's been running in. Like he was 6th in the county hurdle. He ran okay in the Newbury race that has worked out well prior to that without really threatening. 6th in the county hurdle, like I said, not beaten all that far. Now down to a mark of 134. He was third behind 2 of William Mullins's. championship campaigners in at Ayr the last day. Sorry, it wasn't Ayr. Sorry,
Plumpton, is it the Plumpton Suffolk Champion Hurdle,
it was
wasn't it? I think it
Compton,
was.
correct. Yeah, it was. Sorry. Um, that was off Mark 135, so it's been dropped a pound for that again. Look, Absurd was too good for him on that occasion, as was Daddy Longlegs, but um, I just feel like this isn't the strongest contest. You know, we're heading towards summer jumpers territory. I think he's a little bit better than that. Mark of 134. Freddie Gordon obviously takes £3 off that as well. And I think our champ should run well. He's kind of going to be very hard to see out of the frame, I think. So he's kind of a muggy each way bet there around 6-1 or 13-2. I'll have a little bit of that. They're my two. I don't have anything else. It was a bit of a struggle to find a second one, to be honest. But the nap is, like I say, Cathedral, and the next best is our champ. So they're our best bets, Matty. It's going to be kind of one of those quieter weekends, probably. Still clicking into gear for the flat, and one last hurrah at the jumps.
Yeah, I think so. It'd be nice to try to sign off the jumps with a winner or two, but yeah, a bit of a damp squiver weekend before the proper stuff starts. And the Naves Mayor at York next week,
Yeah,
anyways.
and you're heading to York next week. Will you
Yeah,
will
but
you go
there
racing again?
Wednesday and Thursday. Yeah.
Wednesday, Thursday.
I've also might have one running Friday, so I might have to try and sweet talk someone to try and get off at work. But there'll be no, no, probably not a chance there. No one's stupid enough to book off to not work a race day, so no work one
Very
even.
good. Very good. Well, enjoy York. I hope you back plenty of winners. Not too many
Or
seconds.
seconds in my case, yeah.
But once you're making a few quid, so that's the main thing. Whether it's big prize seconds or winners, it all adds to the same bottom line. So thanks very much, Maddie, for joining me again. We've been recording this early this morning on a Friday morning this week for a change. That's why the skies are so bright behind me. So we're up early, up and at 'em, up at the day, and have a good weekend, Matty, and best of luck.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Good to be back. We'll see you all next week.
Talk soon, Matty.
All right. Cheers, James.